Hello, Packers fans, and welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined by Ryan Wood. We are in the comfort of our own warm homes today. We are not on the frozen tundra. I'll take those little wins where we can get them.
I was on the frozen trail earlier, so I got a little bit of sniffle. I won't even tell the good folks here what you just called me, Kassidy, but you weren't wrong either.
Just a little Southern wisdom from my dad. But yeah, if you're gonna go run in the cold, just be prepared for the consequences. That's the
Feels
nice
good though. Feels good. It feels good
at the moment until afterwards, and then you get back and you're sick. Anyways, it's the bye week. You can afford to be sick right now because you'll have time to get better. Apparently, you can afford to have surgery right now because you have time to get better. No word yet on whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to have surgery, but he said on the Pat McAfee show this week he could have it all the way up until next Monday. Correct? Did I understand?
Monday or Tuesday, right? Didn't he
Monday
say
or
Tuesday?
And then still play on Sunday versus the Bears. I mean, do you feel like he's still like seriously weighing surgery on this pinky toe, or is it just kind of like one option that's floating out there on the horizon?
He's still considering it. There's no question. He made that clear that he's considering it. The hope is that it can heal on its own, so that it's not something they're dealing with the rest of the season. Because if he gets surgery, he can play through it, but it's still sore. It's still rehab. I mean, even if it's a pinky toe, you got to rehab it, right? It's a bone in your body. And so if it heals on its own, it's not something that they're dealing with in practice, not practicing through the weeks ahead, maybe the rest of the year. So that's why they've delayed it. And the fact that it's a soft deadline and it's not a hard deadline, and they've got time and they can wait and he won't miss games. That's a huge part of this too, because Aaron Rodgers made it very clear, Cassie, he is not missing games.
Right. I always was told, I grew up on a horse farm where you got your toes stepped on frequent, not a lot, but more than you would in the normal world.
Sounds painful.
You do what?
Sounds painful. Yeah.
Yes. And I was always told that the worst thing about a broken toe is you can't do nothing for a broken toe. It sounds like he's at least got a plan to do something for it. And he played on it last week. He's played on it the past 2 weeks, albeit without practice, but he seems to at least have the mobility that you would want him to have. He's not a mobile quarterback anyways, but he's got the mobility. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he just sort of slowly rehabbed it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, I think that the saying is that there's nothing you can do with a broken toe unless you're Aaron Rodgers, right? Because like for most of us, like we break our toe, it's like, well, if we get surgery, it's basically the same thing, so we might as well just not spend the money and get the surgery. Right. For Aaron Rodgers, like doesn't matter, like whatever needs to get done, you just get it done. Right. But again, yeah, no, he's been able to. I think that the first 3 halves back from the hiatus from COVID-19 was rusty, shaky, and that rust is gone. The past 3 halves, he's looked much different. He's looked like Aaron Rodgers. You know, we should say too, by the way, Kassidy, it's a big day. It's a big day for.
It's his birthday.
It's not just his birthday. Like I write words for a living, so I cannot calculate the odds of this, but it just always blows my mind that the Packers backfield is a pair of Aarons, which I mean, the chances of that aren't high. But a pair of Aarons born on December 2nd. Aaron Rodgers turns 38 today. Aaron Jones, 27 today on December 2nd. What on earth are the odds of that happening? Not high.
I'm sure someone that's smarter than us can tell us what the odds are.
Help me out.
Yeah. Anyone want to hop in here? So, yes, happy birthday all around to all the Aarons.
All the Aarons.
All the Aarons, all the Packers Aarons. Happy birthday. And actually, if you haven't had a chance yet, don't go do it right now. Stick with us. But when we're done, you need to go to the Packers Twitter page and watch the video they did with Brian Baumgartner from The Office for the bye week. And he talked about where Aaron Rodgers was born. It was pretty great. We've got some questions coming in that we're going to get to after we finish our updates. But this particular question is related to Aaron Rodgers and his toe. I've never talked about a pinky toe so much in my life. So it seems relevant. Will he still get injections if he has surgery? He mentioned after the Rams game that he did not have to have an injection at that halftime, correctly? So
I
is
can't
it?
even remember. Your memory on that's going to be better than mine.
Well,
I would imagine. This is just a guess here. All right, I'll full disclosure, Chase. I don't know,
Mhm.
but my guess is that if he got surgery, there would be injections, right? I mean that it's something he's going to deal with. The whole reason to not have the surgery is to deal with it as little as possible. It heals on its own. It goes away. If he gets surgery, it fixes the problem.
Mhm.
But it's also something that they deal with longer. And if he's going to play through it, that would to me open the door to injections. But that's spitballing here. I don't know.
Do you think some of it may also just be on a case by case basis if it's hurting?
Yeah,
You know,
how it feels, right?
yeah,
Sure,
exactly.
absolutely.
Like we said, continue to put your questions in the comments. We're going to get through a couple of more bi-week updates here, and then we're going to take your questions. So go ahead and throw them in there, and then we'll filter through them in just a minute. There hasn't been too much that come out this week. Everybody's sort of on the download, taking their time off. It was a long grind to get to this bye week, so they've deserved their time off. But one other update was from Devondre Campbell. He was put on the reserve COVID-19 list, but from our understanding, and I'm going to let you explain this, Ryan, he should still be okay for the Bears game, even worst case scenario, correct?
Could be okay. I mean, if he's got a bad case of COVID-19, then that would jeopardize it. The NFL does not confirm whether or not a player that put on the COVID-19 reserve list is because of a positive test or a close contact. So either way, he's out 10 days. But if it's close contact or if it's one of those that, it's not a severe case of COVID-19, the chances are high that he'll be able to play December 12th against the Chicago Bears. So, this and you don't want anyone to ever get COVID, like, because we're not bad human beings here, right? So, like, that's never a good thing ever. But in terms of timing, if that was going to happen, this was a good time for it to happen.
Right, because when he was placed on the list, 10 days out is still before that game. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay, a couple of questions to get to here. This is a good off-week question. We can spend time discussing this. Do you see Rasul or Campbell getting extensions?
If money's not a factor, if the cap's not a factor, I should say, then absolutely. I mean, Rasul Douglas has really made this place home, and Devondre Campbell's been the breakout player of the year. So I don't think there's any question that both those guys have been big with the Packers defense. And Rasul Douglas probably wouldn't cost all that much. So I think
Right.
his chances are higher. It's really difficult to kind of handicap who is going to get extensions. It's much easier, perhaps, to handicap who's getting cut as a salary cap casualty in this spring because that's the position the Packers are in. The Packers are in position of throwing all the chairs and tables and debt overboard. Like they've got to abandon ship on their cap because it's a mess. They're what, like 55 million over or something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm looking at it. I'm pulling it up right now.
It's because of that, it's really hard to say who's going to get extended. Um, it's a problem. The Packers 2022 cap situation, it's a big. If you thought 2021 was difficult, and it was, Brian Gutekunst and Russ Ball were busy with restructuring and getting under that cap. You thought that was a lot. Wait for 2022.
They're in 2022 right now, according to Over the Cap, which is pretty down to the cent, they are a little over, they're 46.5 million over.
46 and a half. So that's a lot.
A lot.
It's a lot.
In fact, they are the only team with less cap space, or the only team that's worse off is the Saints.
You never want to be compared to the Saints when it comes to salary cap, ever. That is like that's a curse word.
Do you think you could see? I guess the best way to ask this is a lot of restructured contracts. If you keep Aaron Rodgers, does he take a pay cut like we've seen some guys do in the past?
He's not taking a pay cut. And frankly, nor should if you're Aaron Rodgers, like you shouldn't take a pay cut, right? Like you're Aaron Rodgers, you're playing at a high level. It's not on these players. It's not the players' fault. It's not on them. Now restructuring, perhaps. I don't have his contract in front of me, and frankly, I've been pretty focused on 2021, so I don't know exactly the science of of 2022 and all the details. But let's just say on a macro level, it's a big problem.
Okay. Before we get into the next questions, Jim here coming through for us. The probability of 2 people out of 50 having the same birthday is 0.9%, less than 1%.
And then amplify that by getting to the NFL on the same team,
Right.
in the same backfield.
Yeah.
That's
frankly,
ridiculous.
Jim could be making those numbers up. We would have no way of knowing.
Yeah, Jim, let's quickly fact check. I have no idea. But still, I mean, it sounds right. And I'm like, that's still nowhere near the improbability of Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones being on the same team, in the same backfield with the same birthday.
Yeah. Mike says that if you and I would just take a pay cut, we could afford all these players.
Not how it works, Mike. Not how it works. And frankly, it would be so minuscule. You have no idea. It would not even budge the needle.
If you and I take a pay cut, they could get better tissues in the bathroom or something.
They get a couple Coke cans in the what is it, Moneyball, right? The movie. They get a couple Coke cans in the clubhouse.
Or did you hear about what the Braves say was the impetus for their World Series run? I'm sorry.
What did you just say? No, I don't even know what you mean.
They got an ice cream machine. I know you.
I don't know what you mean, Cassidy.
If y'all didn't know this, Ryan is a huge Braves fan. So send him.
No, that's big news.
Send him Braves updates and news and gifs. He loves them.
She's lying to you.
Jim is a retired math teacher, so we're going to trust his numbers. Randy wants to know how bad is Campbell. We don't really know, right? We just know he's on the list.
Yeah, we don't know. Like I said, the NFL does not confirm whether or not it's a positive test or a close contact. So that's a very wide variance of players that end up on that list. We don't know. I would still, though, I think the chances of him being able to play against the Bears are fairly high.
Yeah. Jim wants to know, will we see Bakhtiari or Alexander this year?
I don't know. If you would have asked me early in the season, I would have said yeah, but now here we are in December.
Right.
December 2nd. Happy birthday, Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. I don't know. The one they need both those guys. And they needed David Bakhtiari already, but not having Elton Jenkins, that's just I don't see them getting to the Super Bowl without David Bakhtiari. And I would say he's even more important than Jair Alexander, but it's really hard to see them getting to the Super Bowl without Jair Alexander too. It's not because David Bakhtiari is necessarily better than Jair Alexander. There's 2 premium positions, but just not having Elton Jenkins is huge. So, if you believe the reports that that's he had the knee scope and David Bakhtiari is supposed to be back, and they haven't had surgery for Jair Alexander, so that's the reason for that is so he could be back. So the door is open, but whether or not either of those 2 players walk through that door this year, tough to say.
For what it's worth, we have not seen David Bakhtiari at practice for the past 2 or 3 weeks. That could just be because he was getting that knee scope. Who knows when he'll come back. We did see Jair Alexander the other day. He was off in the pit. He was doing his own thing, but he was there in the building. And I think that was the first time in a while, correct?
We've
seen him.
It was.
So, we've at least seen his face. He's still alive. He's still on the property. Let's see. Mike wants to know, are there any free agents in this week to work out?
Don't know. That's a good question. Have not been in on my workouts this week. So that's I would imagine that they're conducting business as usual. So probably, but I don't know.
I mean, is there anywhere that they would need a free agent to come in to work out? Can you think of a place?
They what they usually do. This is kind of a scouting exercise, just being able to stay up to date on who's available and who's in the league and who you're interested in more than a need. So, the players they were in the building Monday, and then they had off till next Monday. Okay. The coaches were in the building on Tuesday. They did their self-scout, and then they were given off. Scouting doesn't stop on the bye week. I mean, that continues throughout the fall, college scouting and pro scouting. So Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they are looking at players in the league, but it's a good guess who it is.
Okay. I've got two questions back to back here. Michael Snow, can they practice while on IR? What are the restrictions? Physical?
No, they cannot practice while on IR, and that's why it's so important. If a player, even if you like Elton Jenkins early this season, missed 3 games, but he was back for game 4 because he practiced week 3 of being on IR. And so a lot of times the Packers like to have a guy practice for 2 weeks before they play, come back from missing a couple games, just kind of get him in football shape. Even if you miss 3 games, if you don't go on IR, you're able to practice before then. That helps you get back quicker.
And that kind of goes into Linda's question as well, the activation process for Jair. Would there be a 3-week time frame? If he's back at practice now?
No, he could be activated immediately. They would for sure be having him practice. Let's say he returned to practice next week, I'd be very, very, very surprised if he was to play against the Bears. That's when you've had that much of a lengthy time off, and especially at that position, which never leaves the field, plays 100% of the snaps, a lot of running involved, a lot of conditioning involved.
Yeah.
You need multiple weeks, but they can activate him to the 53 at any point.
Okay. RC says if 12 wins back-to-back MVPs, which he's possible to do this year, is it a no-brainer Love was a bad pick?
Well, you know who dictates whether or not Jordan Love is a bad pick? Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers has nothing to do with that. Honestly, if Jordan Love is a franchise caliber quarterback, if he's an Aaron Rodgers type or even a Pro Bowler, right? Because not everyone's Aaron Rodgers, but even if he's a winning quarterback in this league for the next decade, he's a good pick, period. If he's not, it was a bad pick. And it's very, very cut and dry with that.
I'd argue, too, that them drafting Love is sort of what gave Rodgers this not kick in the pants, because it's not like he needed the motivation, but like it gave him motivation, if that makes sense.
He'll never say it did, but if you watch his play,
yeah,
he was a different quarterback after.
And I mean,
he just was. It's not because he suddenly got more talented.
Right.
He didn't just like come into 2020 and he was just better. You know, for 3 straight years from 17, 18, 19, 3 straight years, he was sub 100 passer rating. And then he explodes with the second best passer rating ever last year. And here he is in the MVP mix again. I have no idea if he's going to win the MVP. A year ago this time, we talked about MVP, it was very, very obvious it's a 2-horse race. It's either Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
It is not obvious this year. Nobody's separated from the field. So, you know, Aaron Rodgers is in that mix. There's a lot of players in that mix. But to go from 3 straight years of sub 100 passer rating to MVP in MVP consideration the next year, the only thing that the line of demarcation there is Jordan Love being drafted.
Right. And I mean, you could even kind of look back and look at when Aaron Rodgers was drafted, and then look at Favre's like 2007 season. You know, he's still got somebody nipping on his heels, and he goes off for that 2007 season, which ended up being his final one here. But you know, when you've got somebody right behind you, watching you, pushing you, you do better. And so there's something to that. Like you said, he'll never admit it, at least not while he's still on this roster. Maybe after he's retired. And then, let's see, there were a couple others in here. Okay, so a couple of people have asked about Za'Darius Smith. First, as far as when he's coming back, Daniel asked specifically, do you think he's played his last snap as a Packer?
I think it's possible. You know, he's a guy that could be a cap casualty next year, and he's far from the only one. And I have no idea if he's going to be back this year. So it's certainly possible that those 18 snaps he played against the Saints were his last as a Packer. Doesn't mean it will happen. Maybe they figure something out. Maybe he returns this season. Packers would sure like him to be back at some point this year. I'm positive about that. But it's possible.
Speaking of Za'Darius Smith, while we're on the subject, this came through today. I thought this was pretty cool, especially being an Alabama native myself. On Giving Tuesday, he donated 1,000 sneakers to 3 different schools in his hometown of Greenville, Alabama, to launch his foundation, The Good Life. And yeah, let's see, The Good Life. Also gave $15,000 to Butler County School District to support athletic department needs. And I'm sure that is not the last we will hear from the Za'Darius Smith New Foundation. Thought that was pretty cool. Good job, Za'Darius. Good job. Okay, well, I think we're wrapping up here. Okay, we're going to take a couple of final questions, and then we're going to wrap up here.
You got to get Mike Fagan in there. Who do we contact to suggest a pay raise for you two? I don't know, but
click on that one. We'll have your people, Mike. You have your people talk to our people and see what you can work out.
I like the way you're thinking there, Mike. I like that. Thank you.
Daniel, with more of an observation, but I like it. Never a better time to draft a quarterback than when you don't need one. The Bears are a prime example of why you pull the trigger sooner rather than later.
That's the old Ron Wolf philosophy. They with Brett Favre here, they drafted a ton of quarterbacks that panned out in the league, and obviously Ted Thompson followed suit with Aaron Rodgers when they didn't need one, and that worked out well. Look, Aaron Rodgers, again, has nothing to do with whether or not Jordan Love was a good or bad pick. He has nothing to do with it. Jordan Love has to do with whether or not Jordan Love was a good or bad pick.
And we may not know that for a few years.
Yep, it's going to be a minute.
Rodgers keeps playing like he is. Also, you said thank you, Kassidy, for being here. Thank you for welcoming me. Also, any update on Cobb? Matt LaFleur was pretty tight-lipped.
Yeah.
But
nope, the groin. We still don't. Do we even know yet when he injured his groin?
I think he said, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm pretty sure I am because I laughed when he said it, it happened like in the touchdown. It was like when he scored the touchdown, and then you saw the guy celebrating with him, and he was trying to get him off of him because it aggravated it. So it happened. LaFleur just said it happened in that skerfuffle. That's not the word he used.
It's a good word, though.
Thank you. I thought it was.
It's a good word.
It could have either been during the touchdown or during the touchdown celebration. Cody Bellinger once threw his shoulder out during a celebration for a home run in the World Series.
Does not play for the Braves. That's acceptable.
Thank you. And so it could have happened anytime during that moment, but we don't know exactly when he'll be back. I do think it was interesting because we haven't done a Facebook Live since this was said. So let's just mention this really quick, that he was put back on punt return the other day versus the Rams. And Maurice Drayton said afterwards that was sort of always the plan. It wasn't necessarily because Amari Rodgers slipped, but because of the field conditions, which probably led Amari Rodgers to slip, that they wanted a veteran guy back there and that they had practiced that all week. Do you think we continue to see a two-person rotation at the return, whether it's Cobb or somebody else, if Cobb has continued to recover?
No matter how you slice it, it's because of Amari Rodgers.
Right.
It might not have been because he slipped on that one punt, but even if the wheels were set in motion, they practiced it that week, it's because Amari Rodgers hasn't really grabbed that job by the horns. And
right.
So, it's just the irony of it all, of course, is that you say because of the field conditions, right? So
right.
It's a trust thing. You trust the veteran with the field conditions to be more secure, and then he muffed the punt. So kind of an ironic outcome.
Mike wants to know if we'll have a new special teams coach in 2022.
I'm going to say no.
Think they ride with him?
I think they ride with him. There are actually
– special teams has been better.
There's areas that are actually been pretty good. Like the coverage has not been an issue. The punting
coverage has been fantastic.
The punting in general has just been otherworldly. Corey Mahorquez as a punter is a revelation. They don't have a professional caliber punt returner on this roster. That's a problem. Kylan Hill was one, and then he made a mistake. He made a bad decision to return that punt, that kickoff in Arizona, and unfortunately, obviously, paid a price for that with the ACL. They don't have a professional return. What does a coordinator do with that? That's a roster thing. At some point, they don't have a professional long snapper, and they haven't had one all year. At some point, you've got to get the snaps right. I don't think they're missing field goals because Maurice Drayton isn't coaching it hard enough.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's because, like, he hasn't, when he talked to us, he broke it down in very fine detail, every step along the way. There's nothing more you can do there. So at some point, the players got to play. So their return game and their kicking operation has been atrocious.
Right.
I don't know. I put either one of those things. They haven't had a lot of penalties. I don't know how I put the issues on coaching.
That's fair, because the stuff that is coachable on special teams, like you said, has been fantastic. Coverage, especially, the gunners have been otherworldly up there with the punting. And I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago, but it's with the way that long snapping is sort of taught nowadays, it's very rarely on a special teams coach to teach that. That's usually a specialist that you go to in the off season. So, there's only so much he can do with what he's got. And what he has been able to do has been pretty dang good. So that's a good point. Randy says sorry about Alex Trebek. Thanks, Randy. We'll miss him. He's a great one. Ryan, go enjoy the rest of your bye week.
Yes, it's been a very enjoyable bye week for Mets fans like myself. So thank you.
I don't want to hear it. Not for Dodgers fans like myself.
Can't help it. We got the money on our side.
That never happens. If anyone outspends the Dodgers, something's wrong. Lost Max, lost Corey Seager. I'm a little upset.
Money, 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 money.
Except Chris Taylor, so I'm okay with that. Okay, well, we are going to still have you covered over at Packers News. Just because it's the bye week doesn't mean we're completely checking out, only like halfway checking out. So stay tuned to Packers News for complete coverage as the Packers finish up their bye week and then get ready to host the Bears next Sunday. Ryan, thank you for joining us. Everyone, thank you for watching and listening in. We will see you soon. Bye.